Oh, is this on? Cool. Hi, nice to meet you all. My name's Caroline Freed, and I'm a interim director of research at an organization called CAPRI, the Center for Asia Pacific Resilience and Innovation. And I see some people are still coming in, so we'll start in just a few minutes. But I can introduce myself a little bit, as well as my lovely assistant who's passing out some paper to everybody. So, like I said, my name's Caroline. I'm from the United States. Anybody from the US here? Hello. Cool. So yeah, I grew up in the US, and I've lived in Taiwan now for 6 years. I moved to Taipei in 2017 to do graduate school. I studied at National Zhengzhi University. Anybody studying at Zhengda? Yeah? Yeah, hello. Great to see you all. And so after I finished my graduate degree at NCCU, I did a master's in Asia Pacific Studies. I decided to stay in Taiwan and start working. I got a job as an academic editor here in Taipei. And then the pandemic hit, so I was stuck here for a couple of years. But while I was stuck here during the pandemic, I joined a team that founded this organization, the Center for Asia Pacific Resilience and Innovation, or CAPRI for short. And we got started I joined this team in 2021, and we were established in 2022 as one of Taiwan's first international, nonpartisan, nonprofit policy think tanks to be established in Taipei. And so CAPRI's mission is to enhance global resilience and promote innovative governance by drawing on the experiences of the Asia-Pacific region through comparative public policy research. And so that's a little bit about myself and what I do. My lovely assistant Charles here, who's walking all over the place today. He's going to help me with some parts of our workshop today. And he's actually our long-term intern with us. He joined us in January this year, and he'll be with us through mid-August. And so something about Charles and I is that Charles is a current student, and I'm an alum of Northeastern University in the United States, which has a really big emphasis on experiential education. So experiential education meaning that you get to use what you learned in the classroom and apply it to real life. And so Northeastern does this through a co-op program where organizations like us can get a long-term full-time intern like Charles to work with them. And so Charles and I were really excited to do this workshop with you today because we believe in the power of experiential education. And so today's objectives, or today's session is called Becoming a Global Professional. And so I'll share some tips, tricks, and general advice about how you can become a global professional, because you all are not from Taiwan, but are living and working in Taiwan. And I suppose many of you are interested in developing international careers. So I guess by way of curiosity, how many of you are interested in working in Taiwan? How about working in another country that isn't your home country? Cool, yeah. So hopefully this can be helpful today, and you'll get to share with each other some of your experiences, best practices, tips, and tricks. So yeah, today we'll do a little bit of sharing, we'll do a little bit of brainstorming, and a little bit of hands-on practice. Basically, I want to get you guys talking to each other more than I'm talking to you. So my original idea, there was going to be 52 of you in the room, which is the exact number of people for every person to get one card in a deck of cards. But it looks, do we have a deck of cards today? It looks like there's fewer of you. Okay. Basically, I want to randomize you a little bit. It seems like you've been sitting in these groups today already. But essentially, I'd like to break you up into groups of 4 with people you haven't talked to today yet. So I don't know what might be the most time-efficient way to do that. Anyway, okay, we'll improvise a little bit. Starting from over here, count up to 8. So, alrighty, perhaps we can come back together now. All right, if you can hear my voice, please clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap once. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. So I'd like to know what you guys talked about. So if each group can elect one representative to kind of summarize what you all talked about, that would be great. Maybe starting from this end. Sure. So yeah, what kinds of themes were coming up when you talked about why did you want to do an internship here, and what kind of differences have you encountered looking for an internship in Taiwan versus in your home country?
I think like our group main reason why we joined this internship is to create, because this is our start to create a career in Taiwan. Because all four of us wanted to work in Taiwan and want to make a career here.
Okay, great.
And the difference is, I think like the salary. Yeah, because four of us come from Southeast Asia, and compared to our country, the salary here is higher. So yeah, we just want better life.
Yeah. A great reason. Okay, how about this group?
Okay. So what we discussed, and the results are that it is more favorable for us to do internship abroad, and then like we can go outside from our comfort zone and explore more our hard skills and soft skills. Then the differences are also maybe salaries, and then the culture is very good.
Great. Thank you. And I just realized I forgot to ask both of you your names. So what's your name?
Yeah. My name is Russell. I'm from Indonesia.
So nice to meet you. And you?
My name is Lucky, and I'm also from Indonesia.
Great. Thanks. Cool. All right. How about this group? Who's representing? Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for the time. My name is Andrew. I'm also from Indonesia, mainly Indonesia. Yeah. So I want to share some of the discussion. Maybe Sunny. Yeah, Sunny is from Vietnam, and she already had some experience before as an internship in Vietnam. And she said that in Vietnam we should do a full-time job. I mean, like full-time position working as an internship. So in Taiwan, like they can't do internship like only a half. I mean, like they have some hours, maximum hours to do. So it's like more chill. So like not really stressful. Yeah. And then also in Taiwan, they are all really open to foreigners. Yeah. Like we can try to get a job here. Like even now I am doing the internship in the TDRI or Taiwan Textile. They are really try to open to the foreigner. I mean, like doing the translation during the presentations. Yeah. Although it's quite hard to understand, but it's quite the effort is okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't catch your name.
Andrew.
Andrew. Great. Cool. Strong contingent from Indonesia today. All right. How about this group? Go ahead.
Thank you. Don. What were we talking about? Oh, so for the most part, everyone but me, this is our first like internship in life, and so it's like gain experience, get more accustomed with like the work environment in Taiwan, and to like be more inundated with Chinese language. The differences that you've encountered, but for the most part, this is the first time, so they haven't had a lot of differences.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's been like it being like in Chinese and actually understand like how everything works. Like you have to understand the language, so that's been a difficulty. But no one's really had anything to base their new experience off.
Sure. How about yourself?
I don't want to be smirched, but just like not as organized as I'm used to at times.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's also like people like think on the fly and they try to help you. So like even though something may not be planned all the way out, it's still like we can get it done and we can work together. And it's just like, oh, that's really like good to know that there is some like bastion to help it out. All right, so most
Cool.
of you guys talking a while.
All right, thank you. How about this group?
Hi everyone, my name is Christina and I'm from Bangkok, Thailand. So, well, the like how to say the result after we discuss is basically the same with every group, which is for experience and for our future career. Like most of us want to work abroad, and this is such a good chance to like learn about Chinese culture and Chinese language, and also the differences that we found. Well, most like actually all of the member in our group haven't worked in our home country before, so we don't really so sure about it. However, we have heard about it from our friends, and we can see that like in Taiwan it's more hand-on to the work, like more practical than the one in our country.
Oh, okay.
And actually the wage from like Southeast Asia, because like most of actually every member in our group from Southeast Asian as well, the wage in our country is lesser than here, so that's kind of good thing. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, this group. Go ahead.
We discussed about why did we want to do internship. Do I have to introduce myself?
Oh, just your name is good.
My name is Annie from Vietnam, and we wanted to do an internship abroad because we are foreign students here, so we want to, discover our future possible career path and also the Taiwanese working environment, and also the differences between Taiwan and our home country. Actually, we are all like pretty young, so we didn't have experience in finding internship in our home country, so we just pass the questions.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. All right, two more groups. Who would like to speak? I mean,
So actually kind of the same with previous people, right? The reason why we want to do internship abroad because we are a student here, and I think it's a really good opportunity for all of us here as a, let's say, Asian student, Southeast Asians and stuff. We think, we think that it's a really good opportunity for us to see the working cultures in Taiwan because we heard a lot of this as well, right? But because the second question is talking about the comparison, we cannot compare as well. Because,
okay.
Yeah, we never had an internship at our home country before. Because just like graduate from high school and just comes to Taiwan, for example, like that. But yeah, we are really open to accepting any challenge.
Okay, cool.
That's it.
Yeah. Great, thanks. And last group, who would like to speak? Go ahead.
So after our discussion, like all of us were like we're doing our internships here in Taiwan is to like experience the working culture like everyone mentioned. And for number two is that there are some cultural differences like down management and hours and stuff.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. Thanks for doing this activity with me. This is kind of a way to help me get to know all of you, and even though there's many of you. So this workshop, I'll focus on kind of two big parts of an international job search. From what I gather, there's some of you who have done internships before and have work experience, and some of you, this is your first time. But in order to get the internship that you currently have, you've definitely put together a resume. And so today I'll just share like some tips and tricks that I've found helpful over the past several years of my doing internships and now working for a few years, and how I've found it after moving to a new country, because I basically also started my career in Taiwan. I graduated from undergrad and then immediately moved here. And so my very first full-time job that wasn't an internship was in Taiwan. And now I'm in my second job, also in Taiwan. So something I can recommend when you're preparing your resume for an international job search is to look up what people in that country typically do on their resumes. So I've actually am showing you part of my resume here, the very top part. So you can look up what kind of practices are common there, what kind of formatting is common in that country. I can tell you that when I first came to Taiwan and I was first considering applying for jobs here, I discovered that most people put their picture on their resume. And I learned that that was very common in this area of the world. But I think there are a couple of other Americans here that is highly discouraged in the US because in the US, due to like non-discrimination practices, you're generally told to not put your sex, not put your age, not put your picture. Definitely don't say your nationality, don't say what race you are. And so my current resume has just my address, my email, my phone number, and because I'm in Taiwan, I put my Chinese name. And so look up what practices are common in the country that you're applying to, and do those. And you can also look into the conventions in the field that you're working in. So I've fielded many applications for internships at Capri as well as full-time staff positions. And so I've seen many different kinds of resumes. And especially in the creative fields, you can feel free to get really creative with graphic design, with even pictures and other graphics on your resume. And so for whatever field that you're going into, try to match what other people would be doing. If you're going into a very businessy environment with a very artsy resume, it could look funny. And this gets a lot harder as you gain more experience, but to try to fit it all in one page, especially while you're still a student, you can pick the most impactful or the most relevant experiences to put on your resume. And I thought I'd point out, especially because this is an international crowd and we're all looking to grow our careers internationally, this was something that I only learned recently when my current boss asked me for my resume so that she could use my resume to introduce me to someone very important that was going to be helping out our organization, is that she asked me to put my high school diploma on my resume. So currently at the very top of my resume is my education. Now that I've been working a couple years, I might put my work experience at the top and education closer toward the bottom. But for many of you who are still in school, putting your education at the top is fine. And so I learned that here putting my high school diploma lets people know where I'm from. And so, especially because I did my undergraduate at Northeastern University, that's in Boston, which is about, if you drive 14 hours from my hometown, you'll arrive in Boston. And so my high school shows that I'm from the southeast of the United States. I'm from North Carolina, and then I did my master's degree in Taiwan. And so that's an option for you if you're using your resume to kind of introduce yourself to someone new. So that's, I suppose, a little tip. And then, so actually writing your resume, typically a resume has bullet points of your achievements, things you did while you were at an organization. And so general tips for that is each bullet point is not necessarily a full sentence. It usually starts with an active verb. So these are also examples from my resume. One of these, this bottom one, is from when I was a student. This was a leadership position that I had as a student for almost 3 years. And then this one on the top is my very first summer job right after I graduated. And so all of these, if you can read them, I'll keep it up on the screen for a while. So all of these bullet points start with a verb. So I say I supported 93 international students from China and Nigeria in their transition to US undergraduate studies through this program. And so I collaborated with people, I tutored people, I developed, facilitated. So All of these bullet points start with an active verb so that you can communicate what you actually did, what your impact was. And so here, you'll want to be concise but complete. So the sentences here don't have to be complete sentences in the grammatical sense, but you do want to give an impression of what the organization you worked for was, if it's not clearly obvious from the name. Like here, I worked for a program called US Pathways Program, and not many people would know what that is just by reading my resume. So I make sure that this first bullet point describes what the organization does and what my role largely was. So the US Pathways Program was a program at the university I graduated from, at Northeastern University, that helped international students coming to the US to start their college career through a semester of on-campus intensive courses. And so I was tutoring them. I was basically their resident assistant in the dormitory. I was making sure they weren't signing up for credit cards that they didn't know the terms of, and basically helping them out with their transition to moving to the US. And similarly, in your resume, if there are metrics that you can point to that show your impact. So here I mentioned the number of students in the program I worked in. So there were 93 international students, all in this program. I helped tutor specifically 15 of them, and I was a teaching assistant for those same 15 students. In this bottom experience I had, each year I was mentoring 15 to 30 students at Northeastern in this service learning program. And so that's another way you can show your impact that you've had in your work experience. And something I've noticed in fielding a whole bunch of job applications is that the order of things should generally be from most recent to least recent. So you can list both your education. So here I listed the most recent thing I did first, and then it gets older as the list goes on. And so similar here, most recent on this version of my resume was 2017, and then I put the less recent ones toward the bottom. So before we get into our next little activity, these are some really common verbs that you can use on your resume to describe the work that you do. So verbs like developed, directed, evaluated. You can. I'll put this slide up again as we go into our next little activity. Which so I know you've kind of only just started your internships. Is that correct? When did you guys start your current internships? Okay, July 1st. So you have exactly 2 weeks of experience under your belt. So based on what you've already done in your internships and what you are pretty sure you're going to do over the rest of the summer, I'd like you all to practice writing a little resume entry for your current internship. So similar to one of these blocks on your resume. So when your internship is finished and you're ready to apply to a job after you graduate, and maybe next summer you'll want to look for another internship, what would you be writing about your current experience? So so use action verbs and use and try to describe the organization you work for and what your role in everything is. So so feel free to use either the big paper or the little sticky notes. It doesn't matter. This is just for yourself. So after you write it, you write your own entry down individually, exchange with a partner, and give feedback to each other. So does everybody have enough paper? All right. If the instructions are clear, I'll go ahead and put this slide up for you guys to reference, if that's okay. All right, and how much time did I give for this? 20 minutes? Okay, 20 minutes starting now, Charles, thanks. Okay, so it sounds like you guys are basically finished, so I think we can move on. Alrighty, reining it back in. Hello. All right, cool. So does anybody actually want to share what they wrote? I won't do one person per group this time because I don't think we have time for that. But if not, you guys can keep it to yourselves if you want. That's fine. I know you guys have just started your internships, so some of you don't really know what you're going to end up spending the bulk of your internship doing. But perhaps saving this paper that you wrote could be helpful, and you can use it when you are closer to the end of your internship, and you can see what kinds of things have changed based on what you expected to do compared with what you actually ended up doing. And so that might be an interesting reflection for you to do toward the end of your internships. So the other half of our workshop today will be about the interview. And so I know you all have successfully gotten internships, so that means you all have successfully participated in at least one interview. And interviews are difficult, and they're a skill that we can always improve on. And so I have some tips about how to prepare for a job or an internship interview, as well as what you can do during and after an interview. So these might be familiar to you if you've had an internship or a work experience before, but it's always good to review. So when you're preparing for an interview and you're getting your resume and your application materials ready, it's a good idea to research the organization. So when we say research the organization, what sort of information should you look for?
Mission, values, newsletters, news articles.
Sorry?
So like their values, missions, overall overview, recent press information, who's interviewing you and their background information.
Okay. Yeah. So especially if you're going to interview at a mission-driven organization, like a nonprofit or a research organization, or even private companies are driven by some sort of mission. So you can look up their mission, their vision, their values. And Don also mentioned any recent press that the company has gotten. If you are into what their financials currently look like, you can look up those. As well as the person interviewing you. You can try to find out more. Their bio might be on their website. What else should you be looking for when they say research the organization? What other kinds of information should you look for? Yes?
Maybe your interviewers.
Yes, the people interviewing you? Yeah, that's a good idea. Anything else? This is just open sharing. I have no right or wrong answers here. Sure.
Maybe like the alumni from your school that work in that company will be also useful, so you can reach to them and ask for like their tips and how is the company doing.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. You can reach out to people in your own network who perhaps work at that organization. I have used LinkedIn to reach out to people who worked at companies that I was interested in working at, and have asked them about the company culture, about what the working style is like. And I've also answered questions for people who reach out to me through LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn yet, it's a good resource. Even though I kind of hate it as a social media platform, it's a really good resource for professional networking. Okay, and so before going into the interview, it's a good idea to prepare answers to really common interview questions, which I'll show on another page. So you can be prepared to explain any unusual parts of your resume. Although I don't imagine your resumes would look too unusual right now, since most of you are students. So most gaps in a resume you can explain by just being a student. So yeah. And something else really important is to prepare questions to ask the interviewer. So if you're in your research on the organization, find something you want to ask about, definitely ask about them with your interviewer. Interviewers definitely want to be asked questions about the company. And the interview process is not only you auditioning for the organization, but the organization is also auditioning for you. You also have to determine whether the organization is a good fit for you. Like we just mentioned, you can reach out to current employees or even past employees that you find on LinkedIn or through like your alumni from your school or other classmates. And something else that you can do that I have found, I haven't necessarily experienced it, but I wish I had known before I went into building my career here, was to look up conventions and practices for interviewing in the country that you're applying to. So I come from the US, where there's a lot of restrictions on what an interviewer can ask you. So basically in the US, you're taught to never answer personal questions. Like you shouldn't tell the interviewer whether you're married or not. You shouldn't tell the interviewer whether you plan to have kids, especially if you're a woman. You're not supposed to give away anything about like your disability status, and that's because there's a lot of concern in the U.S. about discriminatory hiring practices. And so when I came here and started interviewing people for a job, especially when I started at Capri and started interviewing potential job applicants, I would do an interview and then go back to my colleagues, and they would ask, well, like, how old was the candidate? I'm like, I don't know. I've been trained to not ask. I've been trained to not ask how old somebody is. Or like, oh, are they married? Like, I don't know. I didn't ask that. So the conventions for interviewing might be different in different countries, and so you can be prepared for that. So once you make it to the interview, or I guess also before you make it to the interview, it's always a good idea to dress professionally, regardless of whether the interview is online or in person. In person, you can definitely dress. You can never be too formal. Well, I guess if you wear a ball gown, you might be too formal. But business dress is never inappropriate. I guess in a Zoom interview, it's up to you whether you want to wear pants. But yes, dressing professionally is always a good idea. If you're interviewing someone in person, it's a good idea to bring copies of your application materials just in case. Although in my experience, I've never had to give extra copies to the people I'm interviewing with. They always just happen to have copies themselves. Take notes for yourself, especially if you're going through a string of interviews and over a few days, it can be easy to forget what you talked about and what the interviewers asked you. And again, ask questions. It's up to you to decide whether the role you're interviewing for is a good fit for you. And kind of tying back to those interviewing conventions that I learned about in Asia versus the US. In general, I believe you don't have to answer personal questions. If you'd rather the interview focus on questions directly related to the job, you can say so. And then after the interview, I always recommend you write a thank you email to the person you interviewed with. And I'm actually kind of surprised by how little I see this happen now with people who've applied to jobs with us at Capri. So within 24 hours, just write a quick thank you note to the person who you interviewed with, or at least the person who helped coordinate your interview, to send along to the person who interviewed you. Mention if you're still really interested in the role after the interview. Mention that you're still really interested in the role, highlight a couple of things that you talked about in the interview to jog the interviewer's memory, and that can really help you memorable to the company or the organization. So yeah, that's probably my biggest top tip for this. So here are some common interview questions that I thought of off the top of my head, and also from what Google tells me. Have you answered any of these questions in an interview before? Yeah, I see some nods. I see some stares. But yeah, no worries. I'll keep this slide up for our next little activity, which you could have probably seen coming from a mile away, is to practice answering common interview questions. If there are other questions that you have had to answer in an interview, feel free to bring those up as well. So parts 1 and 2, go ahead and do in pairs. So choose a partner either in your group, or if you're sitting with another group, feel free to mix it up. And take turns answering the common interview questions that I had on the previous slide. And so for about 10 minutes, we can do that. And then for the last 5 minutes, you'll return to your group of 4 and talk about which questions were the most challenging to answer. All right, so 15 minutes, Charles, and I'll put these common interview questions on the board. And go ahead and break up into pairs and start practicing these. Hello. All right, I think the conversations have devolved into just chit chat now, so I'd like to bring it all together now. If you can hear my voice, please clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap 3 times. Okay, cool, thank you. Cool, so we have just about like 10 minutes left or so. Perhaps I can ask about how that activity went. What were some of the most challenging questions to answer from those? Which ones were the hardest to answer? Yes.
I think for me, probably the hardest one to answer was to talk about like my weaknesses.
Talking about your weaknesses, yeah, that's a question where, well, I guess what you're supposed to do with that question is say a weakness that's really a strength, but I guess not trying to be too humble brag about it. But yeah, that is a very difficult question to answer, but it's very common. So it's good to have a prepared answer for it. Anything else? What else was difficult to answer? Yeah.
It wasn't one of these.
How about you, and then you? Go ahead, either way.
Okay. I think the difficult one is number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah, because
what is your career plan in 5 to 10 years? You ask a student that.
Because sometimes I don't know I should tell the truth or tell the lies.
An honest answer, yeah. Yeah, especially when you're a student, like you ask a student what do you plan to do after you graduate, and you just throw them into existential dread. So I know that's very, very difficult to answer. And then Don?
If you could be any kitchen appliance or utensil, what would it be and why?
Oh boy, has somebody asked you that before?
Variations of that.
Oh, okay. What do you think an interviewer is trying to get at when they ask you that question?
Creativity and like quick thinking.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your prepared answer for what kind of kitchen appliance would you be?
Oh, I just cooked yesterday, and I was like, a cutting board is so important. Like, I have to cut I need a knife, and I need this, and like it's essential to the entire process before I can even start cooking.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, luckily nobody's had to ask me that, so I might steal your answer if someone does. All right, anyone else wants to share what they found challenging from these interview questions? If not, then that comes to the end of my little workshop today. We still have a few minutes for me to kind of talk about the papers my lovely assistant Charles gave you. So at Capri, we have job opportunities and internship opportunities. Unfortunately, we're full on internships for the rest of 2023, but keep your eyes out for internship opportunities at Capri in 2024. Like I said, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan, independent think tank in Taipei, and we do research on the challenges to a societal resilience in the Asia-Pacific region. And so our work, I'd like to think, is really exciting, although the topics might sound kind of boring. But we are really looking for talented people from all areas of the world, from all walks of life, and from all different fields. So you can take a look at there. We have internship opportunities. We also are hiring several positions. We brought the job description for a program assistant with us today, but you can also check out our website, which is caprifoundation.org, and you can see other jobs we're hiring for. We're looking for Taiwanese talent, we're looking for foreign talent, we're looking for talent from any major, any background. And my colleagues would love for you to also follow us on the social medias. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, as well as YouTube. If you want to get a taste of what kind of programming we do, you can check out our YouTube. We just had a big event at the end of May about resilience coming out of the pandemic, and would welcome you to take a look at those videos. Charles puts together all of our YouTube shorts. And yeah, we'd love for you to like, follow, and subscribe. So thank you so much. I think there's 5 minutes left. If you have any other questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. And please feel free to come get one of my business cards if you'd like to keep in touch. Thanks. Yeah, I can stay for a little bit. Yeah.
So I just want to remind you guys of a small thing. After this session, you have to submit your assignment, just something about your feedback about the workshop today, and you have something from the platform of TCF Academy. Okay. So if you have any question, you can just come to me now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll hang out here for the next, 15-20 minutes or so. So packing up, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.